Okay, so this is my 2007 Chevy Tahoe, and my flex plate is cracked. You can't see it right now, but up inside there, right here, is my flex plate, and I found several cracks on it. It was making that typical, what I thought was like the lifter tick issue. Kept changing oils, putting additives, and somebody asked me if it was coming from the upper part of the engine, lower part of the engine, and so when I popped the hood, put my ear down there, couldn't hear anything really loud, and I put my head close to the tire in the wheel well, and it got louder. And so I took about a 5-foot 3/8 fuel line that I had laying around, and I cut it, and I used it as a quote-unquote mechanical stethoscope. And then I found that the noise was coming predominantly from here, and so when I turned the engine off, I looked up there, and there were several cracks, and it's gotten louder over the last couple weeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull the transmission and transfer case back. I'm not going to take it all the way out of the car. I got the car secured. I got ramps up there. I got wheel chocks in the back. Got the emergency brake on, and I went ahead and I've taken off the rear drive shaft. So pretty much you can see the 4 bolts down there, and then I laid it right here. And the issue I have is inside that spline. I think I got a small groove. It just kind of dried out inside there. So what I'm going to do is sometimes you put it in drive and you go to take off and you feel a clunk sound. I just need to put some grease, axle grease, bearing grease in there. So I'm gonna do that while that's out. So here's a transfer case, and then I gotta take off. Let's see if I can change my zoom here. I gotta take off these 2 bolts here, and then these 2 bolts right here, and it'll take off this cross member. There's 2 other bolts here and here for the damper for the transfer case. I went ahead and I greased all the exhaust fittings. It's gonna be kind of hard to see without a flashlight and everything, but I went ahead and shot those with some lube to try to get maybe some penetration in there in case, and I did take those off later. And everything I'm using here is PB Blaster. That's really good stuff. So my goal is, again, I'm gonna try to get my transmission jack under here, maybe have it initially supported right here at the transmission pan, and then I'm gonna have my rolling jack kind of back over here, and probably have some blocks of wood just kind of hold it there. And then I'll take off these 6 bolts. I think that's 6 on there, and then I'll disconnect the fuel or transmission coolant lines up at the radiator, and see if I can't get this thing to slide back maybe about 3 inches or so I can get up in there and unbolt the flex plate, take it out and take a bunch of pictures, talk a bunch of shit about it, and then put the new flex plate on and push it all back together and put it back on. I'll take the starter off too. It's located up there. It's kind of hard to see, but that's it right up there. Obviously what I just said was 8,000 times easier than it's going to be, but this is just the starting of some videos, so stay tuned. I should probably also mention I took off, somebody had already cut these straps here for the front part of the drive shaft that goes to the front axle. I don't know why they cut those off, but they did, and so I went ahead and unbolted the drive shaft to the front axle. So it was pretty easy to pull out. You just go ahead and pop it out here and then shove it up there, and then you pull the spline out. And after the spline's out, then you got to shove everything back over there and then back down. And so that's the front drive shaft right there. And those caps look like they stay on pretty good, so you don't have to worry about them coming off. I also have some kind of oil leak that's going on up here. A lot of goo, and somebody was telling me that there's a gasket kit you can buy. Take that little cover off right there, and for a few bucks, I guess at the auto parts store there's a gasket, and so I'm going to go ahead and replace that because it seems to be leaking down here. I don't think that's the rear main seal, but speaking of rear main seals, if I do get a chance to pull this back and get that flex plate off, and if I can get to that rear main seal pretty easy, I'll probably go ahead and dig that out and pop a new one in. I think that's probably a pretty smart move after doing all this work. Stay tuned. Just kidding. All right, so the transmission, we slid it back just enough. I don't know how big that is, maybe a couple inches. And then we were able to get up in there and crank those bolts loose and took the flex plate off, put a new one on. And then the only thing, so what I did, I kind of did a cheap way around it. My transmission lines are still attached. I just unclipped them from the engine clips right there, and it goes all the way up to the front of the transmission, and there's these rubber hoses that are flexible, and so that's all right. And so everything's just kind of here, and then we put a ratchet strap here, went all the way back to the hitch, and that's what pulled it back. This stud right here was a little seized up. You can see it's nice and shiny like that, but we're gonna put some lubrication in there and get it back where it needs to be. And so far so good. I still have the exhaust all hooked up. Didn't take anything off as far as that goes. Just gotta make sure we get everything lined up and get the filler pipe back in, or the dipstick. Well, that's it. You can see the cracks here, so it goes all the way across to that side, all the way across to this side, and then the crack runs here, and you see it just follows a little hairline. So that's all that was left. All right, so I'm back on the install. You can see I got it. Transmission is, I just got a few bolts I put in there loosely holding it up. And obviously the most difficult bolt is at the top up there. It's really hard to see. You can see where the ratchet's moving, but you can see the shiny part of the socket up there where the fuel lines are going, and the socket runs back to a joint back over here underneath the cross member and right back to transfer case. I went ahead and taped a flashlight to help keep my point of view. So this bolt is probably the most difficult because of all the transmission, electrical cables, O2 sensor for the exhaust, and the fuel lines. After you get that one in, it's probably going to be a lot easier, so stay tuned. You can see the, see if I can't zoom in here, get a good, all right, right there. So right there is where the stud is for the alignment, and then at the top of that you can see if I can get my other flashlight there, right there where the bright light is. That black thing is the dipstick, and then that's the bracket to put this bolt in, and then after that we got pretty much home free. That's an open spot on top, and let's see, this end, it's awful difficult to see up there. I got that one, and then the other one I did just a few minutes ago. It's damn near impossible to see. It's actually up in that mess up at the top. It's not that one. That one right there. It's God. You can't even see it from back here. That's how bad it is. And I had these fuel lines replaced in Chevy. I actually took it to Chevy to do that job, and those guys cut all of my connectors to hold all those wires and cables down. So I had to really finagle to get around to get to that top bolt. You can almost see the bottom of it. It's not in focus, but the corner of that extension, you can see it right there on the left, just to the right of those two fuel lines. But that's the bolt. I just took a piece of duct tape, put it on top of the bolt, jammed it in the socket, and then just worked the socket all the way up in there until it seated. And then I just sat there and just spent like 20 minutes ratcheting the shit out of it. So but I'll go ahead and put these other two on and move on to the next ones. I just got to show you guys my little invention here, where I take my tactical light to the to all these extensions, turn it on, boom. So I'll be able to snake that thing all the way up there and only hold my extensions and a ratchet. So probably some tool out there, I don't know, that you can do this with, but only issue is if I get in really tight spots, the flashlight, good God, I'm sorry, the flashlight will get in the way as I make those rotations and turn around. But I hope this works. Okay, so had a cracked flex plate on the Tahoe, and went ahead and did it myself. I like these ramps. That's pretty much what I used. I like the jack stands. Jack stands are awesome. The problem I have is I don't really have nice even terrain. Everything has a slope to it. So what I did is I just drove it up on the ramps, and then I took the wheel chocks, put it in the back. And because I wasn't taking any tires off or messing with the emergency brake, I went ahead and put the emergency brake on. I used both the floor jack and the transmission jack, little Harbor Freight special. And then I had some blocks of wood and then some ratchets with a buttload of extensions, and then I had a strap. So once I unbolted the transmission transfer case from bolted it from the engine, I used that ratchet strap to separate it, pull it back from the engine. One really thing, it just blew everywhere, the wind came through. It was really awesome. If it's cold where you're at, or the ground's uneven or rocky or wet, this insulation board is amazing. You can buy it at Lowe's or Home Depot. My father-in-law had a whole bunch of it, so I actually laid it down underneath the Tahoe, and it did an amazing job at protecting me, and it was nice and comfortable, nice and cushy. The other thing I had too was face shield. I bought this face shield cutting concrete, so it was nice to not have all that crap hit me in the face. So I'm gonna go for a test drive and see how it works. I still have a little bit of a tick 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 sound, but I think that is either an exhaust leak or maybe just need to do an oil change.